Okay, as we continue in this series about giving or tithing, the next question we're going to tackle is where to give. Where do you put that money? And I want to encourage you to prioritize the kingdom of Christ, to give to gospel-centered causes, the advance of the gospel. If they're not preaching the gospel, man, I wouldn't put your money there. The reason why is because the children of this world, non-Christians, will give to those other good causes. Wonderful things, building houses for the poor. I get that. That's wonderful stuff. But the children of this world will give to it. They won't give to the advance of the gospel. That's something we are uniquely called to do as believers. Okay? So give to gospel causes. Now within that, of course, there's the option of your local church. But then there are other Christian charities. Sometimes they're called para-church ministries. Do you give to your church or other charities? And one of the ways that question is sometimes answered is with the perspective of tithes and offerings. The idea is that you give a tithe off of your salary to your local church. Bam, done. Tithe goes to the church. And then you also have the ability to do offerings that you can go above and beyond that tithe and give more to other charities, tithes and offerings. I'm a pastor of a local church. I would love it if that's true. That would be so convenient for me. I would love to advocate that perspective, but I think it is a pretty thin biblical case to actually require that. It might be wise. It might be what God calls you to do. I'm a fan. Go for it. But I have a hard time requiring that biblically. Instead, I would suggest if you don't do the tithes and offering thing, at least give the majority of your giving. The lion's share of it should go to your local church. That is where you are fed. That is where you are in community. That is where you are certainly called to give. So give the majority to your local church. Now, to be honest, Shannon and I, before I became a pastor, we were with a parachurch ministry, another charity that was doing gospel work with college students. And I had to go raise my support. And this was our perspective even back then. We would tell people, you give to your church first, the majority to your church, or tithes and offerings, whatever, and then to us. So we've been consistent with that, right? So either do the tithes and offering thing, or at least give the majority to the church. But let's be honest about something. This is not what's holding the gospel mission back. It's not that Christians are giving too much to parachurch, first church, or church. That's not it. It's that Christians aren't giving enough. Okay? It's that Christians give on average 3% or less, and that's the problem. If we all kick it up to 10%, we're going to be fine. All right? Now, just be careful that you don't give to what is flashy. Like sometimes what happens is we get these pictures shown to us of starving orphans and bam, we give. There it is, right there. And then your church needs to extend their parking and build a parking lot. It's like, no. Because giving to starving kids, that's flashy, but parking, who cares, right? So sometimes what happens is this. Somebody comes to faith in Jesus Christ. And out of the gates, they really don't have a context or concept of giving. And so they start out a habit of going to church but not giving anything, okay? And then what happens is after a couple years of discipleship and growth, their heart has grown for the kingdom of God, for the gospel going forward. And so now they are ready to start giving. That's right about when other charities and other parachurch ministries get a hold of them and start to usurp their giving. And so the church never gets in on that, right? Though they come to faith and grow and get fed here, sometimes the church really never gets in on their giving, right? I want you to, if you go there, you give there, because you're still going and taking, right? So give where you go, okay? Now, if you don't do that, then you will allow the majority of your giving to go to other charities. Don't do that. At least do tithes and offerings or do the majority thing, okay? Now, speaking of which, let me address something else. Sometimes we think of the free rider principle in relation to this. The free rider principle is that you think it doesn't matter if you give your fare. Like there are plenty of people on the bus, they're all paying their fare. You jump on for free, you're a free rider, and it shouldn't affect anything. You assume that sneaking on the bus doesn't hurt anyone. And in church, it's like, well, you know what? There's a lot of people here. The church can do without my giving. Everyone else should give. And it's often assumed, particularly with larger churches. The thing people fail to realize is the bigger the church, the bigger the expenses. There's more people here, right? So giving goes up with more people and givers go up. It's good that they go up together. If expenses go up but people don't give in keeping with that because there's so many people, well, then we're in trouble, right? They should go up together. Don't let that stop you, okay? Now, the other issue of where to give that I want to address is this. Don't do designated giving, okay? Designated giving, by that I mean like, hey, I'll give you this money if, and only if you use it to buy pews, or I want this hymnal in the church, or you have to buy these Bibles, you have to put in this stained glass window, and I'll give you the money only if you do what I say. Now, our church doesn't allow that. And the reason why is when we look in Acts, what you see is people brought money, they laid it at the apostles' feet, and they walked away, and they trusted the apostles as God's appointed leaders to direct the giving of the church. So don't try a coup by holding on to your giving, holding it for ransom. That's usurping the leadership of the church, trying to use your wallet, right? Now, maintaining this perspective that we have at Redemption, this protects the church from being controlled by rich people. Right? So the elders designate the giving, and we do that by looking at the good of the whole church, and we decide we should do X. But then a rich person or rich people come along and say, no, we want the church to do Y. So the church does Y. Now it's not for the good of the church, it's just whatever the rich people want to do. No, that's not the way it works. No, instead we all give 10%. There's equal sacrifice, and then we trust the appointed leadership to direct the giving, the spending of the church. That's the way we work here. All right, so let's say you want to put all of this into practice, all this that we've covered so far. You need a plan. You need a plan. That's the subject matter of our next and last video, which is how to give. Stay tuned for that.